Vancouver, British Columbia is one of the largest, most populous cities in all of Canada. It is known around the world for such events as Expo 86 and the 2010 Winter Olympics. Famous landmarks include Stanley Park and the Capilano Suspension Bridge, and it's the home of major sports teams such as the Vancouver Canucks and the Vancouver Grizzlies. Vancouver is a city of pride and diversity, with people from all over the world and all walks of life. A place where millions of people, millions of faces, call home. So why Vancouver? Why choose this place over any other place in the world? And why move halfway across the world just to call this city your new home?
Well, we had some friends. They were living in Vancouver for a couple of years. So they basically said to us if we were to come to Canada, decided to come, that they can help us. So I knew that we're going to need some help, at least at the beginning. So that's kind of why we decided to come to Vancouver, because of that.
My mother had a childhood friend who actually sponsored my parents and myself to come to Vancouver, Canada, from West Germany, Cologne, Köln, which is where we used to live, on the Rhine.
Yeah, I think firstly, my parents have some friends in Vancouver, so it's always good, have some familiar people with you. I think for most of Chinese people, they will trust Canada more because Canadians are friendly, something like that. And also, I think when I was prepared to study abroad, China already has some issue with U.S., because of Trump. So, I heard about Australia. I'm not sure, but some people told us there is more racism in Australia. So, compare with other countries, I still choose Canada.
The whole point of coming to Canada is because my mother's best friend from kindergarten, they knew each other because they lived in the same building in Berlin where my mother was born. And my mother's friend, her name was Rita. And Rita, my mother's best friend, had met a Canadian, I don't know how, I don't remember the story, how he ended up being in Berlin after the Second World War. But he swept my mom's friend Rita off her feet, took her to Canada, and then she was in correspondence with my mother all these many years. And then by the time the mid-60s rolled around and my parents were ready to try another adventure, Rita had suggested, come on over to Canada. And so that was a leap of faith my parents took, one among many. But I know that they picked Vancouver as their second choice. Montreal was their first choice because they could speak French. And unfortunately for us, it was Expo 67. So it was recommended that Vancouver would be the better choice because there was just too much going on during Expo with tourism and people from all over the world.
Once the journey has been made, it is time to settle down and begin your new life. To begin the difficult task of adapting to this new world. A world without your family and the support you once had. A world where most people don't even speak the same language as you. Despite the challenges faced by these individuals, they chose Vancouver. A place of diversity. One that invites the world to indulge with open arms. One that will welcome you and help you through this trying time.
Leaving family was difficult. I know that when you leave at such a young age, my grandma and my mom mostly raised me. And so, leaving my grandma behind and not having her around, you just become very, your family itself becomes very self-reliant. So you don't, it's between three people, and it's always been like that ever since we've been here. You don't have other people that you don't have grandma or grandpa to call to say, hey, can you take care of this or can you help me with this? It's more like, okay, who do you call? You have to figure it out yourself.
Well, actually, I didn't feel really miss my family or not because my middle school is a boarding school, and I even left my family to live someplace else when I was in primary school. So I think it's now become a normal thing for me to don't live with my family. But still, sometimes maybe you feel uncomfortable, whatever, about mental health or something. You all still miss your family. Yeah.
The biggest, I guess, challenge was that there was nobody, actually, no family, nobody to help you. So you had to always rely on yourself and your immediate, husband, wife, and child. That's all we had. The friends were there when we needed them, but they had their own, lives, and you can't really, knock at their door every time you have a problem. You have to figure it out yourself.
Well, as a little girl going to Lord Tennyson Elementary School, I didn't like it because I couldn't understand what anyone was talking about. So I just thought, I'm just gonna go home. And I don't know how I knew this, but I knew the 10-minute walk from West 10th down to West 6th and just made my way home. And my mother would say, oh, okay, you can stay home this afternoon. And Rita was our neighbor, and she kept saying to my mother, no, you have to make her go back to school. So I was, eventually adapted, and there was no ESL, English as a second language training. If you didn't speak the language, well, too bad, just join in and listen and figure it out. And that's what I did.
Oh, well, for me, it's just like I was living in a foreigner movie, I think, because it's, and sometimes I even still feel, I was traveling abroad, not studying abroad. Yeah, it's just an amazing experience. It's always been really nervous to come to a totally, a foreigner country. So it's just not easy for me because I'm also not a really sociable person. So when I talk to somebody, I may feel quite nervous. So yeah, it's just a bit hard at the beginning.
Well, it's fine, I guess. Over time, you'll get better and better. For me, it wasn't that difficult because I had English. I studied it in school and university and so on, and I used it in my job back in Romania. But for my family, for Karina, who was only 4.5, and she didn't really understand any or learned any English. Actually, I tried to get her through some English programs when she was in daycare, when she was 3 or 4, but that really didn't stick. So I don't think, she really learned much there. And my husband didn't know English at all, so for him was very, very difficult to even communicate. In his first job, I remember that he was saying, I don't understand, or I kind of understand what they're asking me, but I don't know how to, reply, how to talk to them. So it was more through signs and things. I don't know how
sign language.
he figured it out eventually.
Yeah.
And then he got better and better. He actually went to some English classes, part-time after work. But I guess it's also a matter of speaking the language, and he didn't really have a lot of opportunities to speak during his job other than very specific, I guess, vocabulary and things that he needed, and that didn't really help with the language much. And when he got home, he was always speaking Romanian with the rest of the family, so I couldn't make him speak English, to be honest. So that was not in his benefit, but
Yeah.
he's getting better even today. He has some struggles, but yeah,
Well, that's
much easier now than before.
When I came here, I was 4.5 years old. So obviously, then it's like I just learned Romanian when I moved. And so now it's like, okay, now I gotta switch over and learn a brand new language all over again when I barely got the hang of the first one. So yeah, I would say it was very difficult for me, like as a kid.
Without a doubt, the hardest part of any big change is the transition period. leaving behind what you once knew and what you'd been accustomed to, and embracing this new change, no matter how big or how small. There will be challenges and struggles, sacrifices to be made. It won't be quick, it won't be easy, but in the end, it's all towards something better. Something that makes it all worthwhile.
One of the observations they made is that life has more opportunities here than it did in West Germany at the time, especially for people who weren't German living in Germany. There's a big problem with racial inequity and prejudice all throughout the 60s, all throughout Western Europe. And my father, having emigrated from Algiers to the south of France and Paris right after the Second World War as a young boy, it was difficult trying to assimilate into society. So having come to Canada after having lived in Germany and in Paris, my parents noticed that there were more opportunities and more freedoms and more choices, and it was just a better opportunity economically.
I think one thing I now realize is that I found a personal goal for me because, like when I was studying in China, our education system is just about mark tests and everybody hope you can go to the best university. Like I don't know if you heard about Peking University or like that. But they actually never taught you about how to make a future career about that, like choose your future major, which one is you want to learn, not your parents or teacher want you to learn. But after I came to here, we have planning class in my school, and so yeah, now I realize what I want to do in the future, and I think that will be the biggest lesson I know.
You don't get the immigration status, I guess, that you get in Canada. Not too many countries in the world have that. And that was based on your skills. So basically, you apply, you get approved to immigrate to Canada, and then you have the freedom to, I guess, go in whichever direction you want. You're not bound to any visa or any job.
Okay.
And I didn't have any job lined up necessarily in any of the other countries.
Just like any other city in the world, Vancouver has a lot of great things going for it. A lot of things to be really proud of. But just like any other city, it has its bad side. Its dark times. Times we wish we could sweep under the rug and forget about. Everything from the biggest embarrassments to the smallest indignities. But nobody really ever forgets.
I mean, that one's more like with the language itself. So when I came here as a kid, when I went to school the first time here, I got bullied a lot because obviously you can't expect 6-year-old kids to understand that, hey, she can't speak English because she just got here. And so that was one of the things that stuck out to me, and it was very, very hard to get over that because it's a language barrier, right? So you don't know how to tell people, hey, listen, like I'm trying my best here, and you can't even communicate with anybody around you.
Yeah, I remember applying for a job as a high school student to the local library, and I couldn't figure it out. Anyway, I finally got the woman on the phone, and she wanted to know my name. And of course, I had Yasmin. It wasn't very common, so everyone called me Yasmin or Jasmine or any variation thereof. And then when they heard my maiden name, they were just, oh, how do you spell that? How do you say that? And finally, for this one interview, the woman on the phone asked me, oh, are you Black? And I just didn't know what to say. And I said, no, why? And then when I hung up and told my father what the woman had asked, he was just infuriated. But and there were other episodes here and there. But if my name had been Sandra Smith or Sandra Schneider or something that people could have pronounced, it probably would have been just fine.
With Vancouver and Canada as a whole having the reputation that it does, one of freedom, opportunity, and a higher quality of life, people will often have certain expectations when they first arrive, as any of us would when we travel to a new place for the first time. But for those of us who have grown up here and never really looked at Vancouver through the eyes of an outsider, how exactly does the rest of the world view us?
Yeah, I think Vancouver is just like which I imagine, like have a lot of trees, beautiful views. Yeah, for those good economic system. Yeah.
I didn't really know what to expect. I was just comparing, I guess, Canada as being more developed with the countries that I visited back in Europe, western part of Europe, and that's kind of what my expectation was, but didn't know what else to expect. Maybe seen some photos from my friends, but not many. I can't really remember. So I didn't really know how it's gonna be and how it's gonna go. I just thought, it should be better than where we came from. So we'll see what we're gonna find out when we get here.
I think my parents would have, had learned a lot about the prevalence of bears and beavers and wildlife and moose and all manner of wild animals. But my father worked out of town in the wild, not in the wilds, but out of town, out of the city, in more of a wilderness setting, more rural setting in the north and the remote areas in Vancouver Island. And so he did get to experience that wilderness that had been spoken about in Europe so widely. So he did get to, live that experience and enjoyed that.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. And my mother would visit him when he was out of town and, yeah, enjoy the nature. But that was what we expected.
When your city is so well known, people tend to have a pretty good picture of what it's like, but they never have the full picture. There is so much more to Vancouver, too much to be told in a short period of time. The only way to truly experience it is to go and see it for yourself. Vancouver can be a new home, a home away from home, or just a place to visit. But no matter how long you choose to stay, to really know the heart of this city, meet the people who make Vancouver what it is, because these are the faces of Vancouver.